On my boyfriend's birthday. The girl who had a secret crush on him showed up at the door with a cake, just asking him to take a bite. But he shouted and cursed at her and smashed the cake to pieces. I, Connor, only eat cakes made by Thalia on my birthday. However, after Elena left, Connor didn't touch the taro cake that I had placed on the table at all. After the party ended, I witnessed with my own eyes that Connor knelt on the ground and ate up all the broken cake, after Elena left in tears. The atmosphere in the room became a bit strange. Connor sat beside me, but his gaze couldn't be moved away from the direction of the door for a long time. 10 minutes ago, a farce had just happened here. The girl who had been chasing Connor for 3 years suddenly came to visit, carrying the cake she had made by herself, hoping that Connor could have a taste. It was the first time in my life that I saw him lose his temper so much and be so rude to a woman. Get out. Take your lousy cake and get out. The moment Elena appeared, Connor somehow got angry and shouted and cursed at her and even laid hands on her. During their pushing and shoving, the cake in Elena's hand slipped out and fell to the ground like mud. At that time, I clearly saw a look of guilt and regret flash across Connor's face. Elena was already sad because of being rejected, and now that the cake she had made with her own hands was ruined like this, she felt even more aggrieved. With her eyes misty and tears hanging on her face, she stared at Connor fixedly. I only eat cakes made by Thalia on my birthday. You can leave now. Connor held my hand and said coldly to her. Elena was still unwilling to give up. President Connor. Please don't treat me like this. Okay? Connor turned his head away, but the strength with which he held my hand increased a little. Elena. Connor is lactose intolerant. He can't eat your cake. Besides, he already has a girlfriend. You should be a bit more perceptive. The atmosphere was at a stalemate, and Connor's good friend Stone stepped forward to smooth things over. Only then did Elena turn her gaze to me. But almost the moment our eyes met, she lowered her head and ran out with her lips pursed. Connor's body moved, and the hand that was about to reach out finally landed on the wine glass on the table. I silently took a sip of wine. Although the uninvited guest had left, she still spoiled everyone's mood. In the following time, Stone sang songs vigorously, trying to liven up the atmosphere. And several other friends also cooperated with him tactfully. Thalia, are you angry? Stone was singing at the top of his lungs when Connor suddenly leaned close to my ear and asked me. Angry about what? I asked with a smile. He said. About what happened with Elena just now. This name seemed to be like a switch. As long as it was mentioned, it could make Connor frown tightly. It was no wonder that he thought I was angry. From the moment Elena came in until she left, I didn't say a word. Is she the intern you mentioned to me 3 years ago? I asked him. I thought you had fired her long ago. 3 years ago. Not long after Connor took over the family business. The thing he talked to me about the most every day was the big and small matters in the company. Suddenly one day, he told me how clumsy the new intern assistant in the company was and how she couldn't do any job well. He only mentioned it to me once. And considering his rather disgusted attitude towards her, I naturally thought that he had fired Elena. Unexpectedly, she had become a regular employee now. Her workability has improved a lot later. And her family was in a difficult situation. So it wasn't easy for her. So I kept her. Well, you know that she likes you, right? Connor suddenly became anxious. As if he was afraid that I might misunderstand. Thalia, I have nothing to do with her. I've rejected her many times. In the past few years, she has been quite honest while working beside me. I don't know why she came here today. If you don't like it, I'll fire her tomorrow. I smiled faintly and patted the back of his hand soothingly. You also said how difficult it was for her. Besides, if you fire her without any reason, be careful that she sues you according to the labor law. Only then did Connor breathe a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to say something, he heard me say again. However, as an assistant, she doesn't even know that you're lactose intolerant. What if a client sends some dairy products one day and she doesn't screen them out for you? Wouldn't that be harmful? I smiled inferiorly and said, this reason can be considered reasonable and doesn't violate the contract, right? Connor's smile froze on his face. I've known Connor for exactly 20 years. Even if I can't know exactly what's on his mind, I can still guess most of it. Our families are of similar status. Although the two family enterprises have nothing to do with each other, they both dominate in their respective markets. Therefore, our parents attached great importance to the cultivation of the younger generation. Since we were young, we have received a lead education. Being polite and having a sense of propriety towards others was a topic that the teachers had talked about for a long time. But Connor lost his temper with Elena in public today. Let alone an assistant who worked for him. Even an Archimere should think twice before doing so. And what kind of people would make a person lose his temper like this in public? 1. Sworn enemies who hate each other to the core. 2. People who are so cared about that one can vent emotions casually in an intimate relationship. Which one was Elena? I knew Connor too well. The several moments of being moved during the quarrel, the hasty and wordy explanations, and the right to choose that he handed over to me before I even expressed my attitude. For the first time in my life, I hated myself for being too quick-witted. Otherwise, I wouldn't have confirmed the fact that Connor had fallen in love with someone else within just a dozen minutes. And regardless of whether Elena was negligent or not, I didn't want her to stay by Connor's side any longer. If we really want to talk about it, interfering in the boss's private life was enough to make her encounter difficulties in the industry. After that, Connor really didn't say anything else and stiffly took a few more sips of wine. There was only one piece of taro cake left on the table, but Connor hadn't eaten any of the pieces that had been distributed. After the group of friends had a wild time, it was almost midnight. Connor was dead drunk. Since he became an adult, he seldom got as drunk as he was today. I had to go to work the next day, so I took this opportunity to end the party. After sending them outside and helping them get into taxis, Stone suddenly turned around and grabbed my shoulders. Thalia. Comrade Thalia Thalia. Stone hiccuped drunkenly. Elena. She's nothing. You and old Connor, you're the perfect match. That's what I said. I couldn't help laughing and reached out to hail a taxi and helped him get in. Do you know where your home is? Tell the driver yourself. Watching the lice on Splate disappear quickly, I turned around and went back to the private room. However, before I entered the room, I saw a scene that shocked me greatly. Connor, who had been unconscious just now, was kneeling on the ground eating the cake that Elena had brought and that was already in a mess. The impact of speculation is different from that of seeing it with one's own eyes. Connor, who held a high position and had great power, was actually kneeling there like an animal, as if possessed by something. I took a picture. Also as if possessed by something, I stood at the door and watched him eat all the cake on the ground. Thalia, hadn't fulfilled my adventure. Thalia, are you in love with the dog? Connor ate until he almost vomited, but he still kept stuffing it into his mouth. When I was a teenager and gave Connor the cream cake I made for the first time, he also gobbled it up like he did today, without caring about anything. He also said that he would only eat the pastries made by me in the future. Later, I learned that he had diarrhea all night after eating that cake, and I never gave him any dairy products again. And now, he was hugging that melted cream and crying bitterly. What was he crying about? I didn't understand. But his action really made me give up the idea of sending him home. I called his family's driver, gave the address, and then turned around and left. Before I left, I heard crying coming from the private room. Elena. During high school, Connor was also once dead drunk. Stone didn't dare to tell Connor's father, so he called me. At that time, I was busy preparing materials for studying abroad and couldn't go there immediately. My parents had gone abroad a year ago, and I had been living alone at home. After thinking about it, I asked the driver to take them to my home first. Why am I never your first choice? This was the first sentence Connor said after seeing me. Thalia, having to say. Don't think too much. He's drunk. Stone helped him to the sofa and then gulped down water. The two of them reeked of alcohol. I asked the aunt to make some hangover soup and bring it over, and also told Stone to sober up and then send him back. While sobering up, Connor called my name many times in his dream. Since he had murmured it so many times, I realized for the first time that my name could be so annoying. Thalia. Can you please not go to the United States? After becoming a bit more sober, Connor held my hand. With a pleading look on his face. Connor's eyes were very beautiful. Like black grapes swaying in the midsummer night wind. At this moment, his eyes were red and swollen. And the sincerity of a teenager was really touching. Connor. I can't. These 4 words seemed to blow away his drunkenness like a cold wind. He stared at me blankly for a while and then left without saying a word. I woke up from my dream. I've never been fond of recalling the past, and it's rare for me to dream about it. Recalling the scene in my dream where I watched Connor walk out of my house step by step, I felt extremely regretful and heartbroken at that time. Could it be that my subconscious thought that Connor falling in love with someone else was caused by my being too cold? Impossible. My subconscious wouldn't be so stupid. Before going to work, I received a message from Connor. First, he apologized to me for getting so drunk and finally asked me to clean up the mess for him. Then he told me that he had already fired Elena. However, the matter of her interfering in the boss's private life couldn't be brought to the surface. And it would be too heartless to do so. In the end, he compensated her with 3 times her salary and asked her to leave the company. I don't think this matter will end here. After all, to a large extent, the 2 of them had feelings for each other. Don't look at how ruthless Connor was to her in words. In actions, he must have indulged her a lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't have heard her name from Stone's mouth. Just as I thought. Not long after Connor fired her, Elena came to find me. Miss Thalia. I'm Elena. In the coffee shop not far from the magazine office. I met Elena there. The lights in the private room that day were too dim. And I didn't get a good look at this girl. Elena had a very likable face, having fulfilled say. The kind that was non-aggressive and could arouse people's kindness. It would be better if her expression could be less submissive. I asked, Miss Elena, how did you get my contact information? Elena's head drooped slightly, and she said softly, I've read your magazine. President Connor also said that you worked in the magazine office. I asked at the front desk. I didn't say anything. Elena paused for a moment and continued. Miss Thalia, I'm very sorry about what happened on President Connor's birthday. I know it's just wishful thinking on my part, but I can't help loving him. When I came to my senses, I had already made that cake. At that time, I just thought that no matter what, I wanted President Connor to take a bite. Even just one bite so that he could feel a little bit of my feelings. What was she doing? Expressing her feelings about interfering in someone else's relationship? Elena. Connor has a girlfriend. Elena nodded and showed a bitter smile again. I know. There's a photo of you on President Connor's desk. Knowing that. You still. Miss Thalia. Elena took a deep breath and interrupted me. I know that someone like me is naturally beneath your notice. I don't have your noble family background. Nor your noble morality. And I don't have the power to make someone leave their job with just a casual word. I looked at her in confusion and asked. Do you want me to introduce a job to you? Elena was silent for a long time. Then, let out a low sigh. As if she had made up her mind. She took a deep breath and said. Miss Thalia. Please let him go. I'm more suitable for Connor than you are. The word let go was really cleverly used. It seemed as if Connor had been in so much pain when he was with me. I was silent, wanting to hear what brilliant ideas she would come up with next. However, Elena didn't say anything more to me. After her declaration of war, she left in a hurry. Looking at the coffee stains at the bottom of the cup, I fell into deep thought. Why on earth did I waste half an hour meeting her? Just to hear her persuade me to give up? But it wasn't completely fruitless. At least I knew that Elena's perception of me didn't just come from magazines and photos. To a large extent, she had also heard about me from Connor. Unfortunately, I didn't have the leisure to deal with the affairs of these lovesick men and women. The new client our magazine cooperated with was a publishing house. And the subject of the photo shoot was a popular writer who had never made a public appearance. A client hoped that we could whet the readers' appetites before the official publication of the magazine. Therefore, all of us in the editorial department brainstormed together. But none of our ideas satisfied the client. After we stayed up for whole nights without sleep, The client finally decided on the first version. Damn it. When I came out of the company, I felt completely drained. I looked at my reflection on the glass door. I looked haggard and tired, and the dark circles under my eyes seemed to be irreversible. I couldn't help but think of what Elena had said that day. Noble family background and noble morality? Were they useful? I still had to rack my brains to make a living under the client's demands. I sighed in my heart. But then I thought that I was being a bit out of touch with reality. Alas. That's how office workers are. Every day, heading day. We are constantly switching between being manipulated by others and resisting that manipulation. As soon as I walked out of the revolving door, I saw Connor. He was wearing a white shirt. His tie was loose around his neck, and he had his suit jacket slung over his left arm. He was leaning against the car door smoking. His tough side profile looked really nice under the streetlight. I called his name. Connor was startled. It seemed that he hadn't expected me to come out so quickly. He was about to walk forward but then turned around and put out his cigarette. Editor-in-Chief Thalia. You've worked hard. What would you like to eat tonight to nourish your body? Connor smiled and took my bag, walked ahead and opened the door of the passenger seat for me. I'd like something light. The takeout in the past 2 days has been too greasy. I took out a mirror and looked at myself. Sure enough, there were 2 more pimples on my forehead. Looking at my distressed face, Connor smiled and said, "Stop fussing over your face. Last time you were in a hurry to get rid of the pimples. But you had an allergic reaction to the medicine and your face swelled up for several days." Of course I know that. I gave him an angry look. It was really embarrassing when that happened. During the National Day holiday, I stayed up late watching TV series. On the night before going to work, pimples suddenly popped up on my face, catching me off guard. Coincidentally, our magazine mainly publishes fashion magazines. And the editor-in-chief is an obsessive-compulsive who doesn't allow employees to have obvious flaws on their faces. So I could only go to the pharmacy and buy a few ointments on the recommendation of the clerk to deal with the emergency. An hour after applying them, my face started to itch. Not long after that, my whole head swelled up. When Connor arrived, I was using ice to reduce the swelling. I was on the verge of crying. But he still pretended to be ignorant and innocently asked me, "Excuse me, where is Thalia?" I remember crying loudly after hearing that sentence and being so angry that I pushed Connor firmly against the door and wouldn't let him in. Later, he climbed in through the window and forcibly took me to the hospital before I gave up. Thinking about these things, I couldn't help but smile. Connor glanced at me while driving and asked, "What are you thinking about? You're smiling so happily." I smiled and shook my head. "Connor, in all the happy memories I can think of, you are always there. Thalia, how about we go on a trip after this quarter ends?" He suddenly mentioned. "Where shall we go? Didn't you say you wanted to go to Iceland to see the aurora before?" Coincidentally, a friend of mine was sent to work there 2 years ago. We can ask him to be our guide. I listened to Connor's travel plan. All I could think of was us wrapped in blankets taking pictures of the aurora around the Kirkjufell. For a moment, I even thought that maybe I should just forget about Elena's matter. So what if I was a silly woman? But soon this thought disappeared from my mind. I received a text message from Elena. "Miss Thalia, want to make a bet with me?" I was still wondering what she meant. The next second, the car made a U-turn. And Connor looked at me seriously and said, "Elena is in the hospital." When Connor and I rushed to the hospital, Elena was arguing with the doctor in the ward. "Doctor, I don't think I need to be hospitalized. I can just go home and apply some medicine. Besides, I can't afford the hospitalization expenses." "Miss Elena, you were hit by a car. Fortunately, having fulfilled l'absci. The driver stopped in time and you only have scratches for now. But what if your bones were injured? You still need to stay in the hospital for observation. The car owner has also promised to cover all your medical expenses." But I just stay in the hospital and rest. Connor rushed into the ward and gave Elena a reassuring look. Elena calmed down, bit her lip and turned her head to one side. She was probably crying. Seeing that the patient's mood had stabilized, The doctor sighed and then turned to Connor and complained nonstop. Are you Miss Elena's boyfriend? She was still working outside so late, and you didn't even know to pick her up. Otherwise, could she have almost had a car accident because of low blood sugar? You young people only know about work. Can money buy health? Connor looked at Elena. Her arms and legs were wrapped in gauze. Low blood sugar? Connor glanced at Elena as if waiting for her explanation. Elena quietly wiped away her tears and said in a muffled voice. I've been working too hard recently and have no appetite for food. No matter how tired you are. You can't skip meals. Connor frowned and said firmly. Then he took out his phone and asked her. What would you like to eat? The doctor looked at these two young people. Perhaps thinking of his own youth. He smiled and shook his head, gave Connor a few instructions and then left. He happened to bump into me, who had witnessed the whole process at the door. Who are you? The doctor was startled by me. I smiled faintly. I'm the girlfriend of Miss Elena's boyfriend. The doctor was stunned for a moment and then immediately realized that he had just made a mistake. It's okay. It's so late. Doctor. You can go and rest. We'll take care of Elena here. I smiled comfortingly. And the doctor left feeling very sorry. I still stood at the door and didn't go in. Connor sat in front of the bed in silence, looking at Elena with a mixture of reproach and concern in his eyes. Elena. You've become quite capable since you left Xingjing. You even know how to work overtime now? Why weren't you so hardworking when you were with me? Tell me. What company is with you working overtime for? Connor's words were aggressive. But there was a hint of jealousy in them. Elena hung her head, her fingers tightly gripping the quilt. She hesitated for a long time but couldn't come up with a proper explanation. What is it that you can't say? Connor got impatient. Elena was silent for a while. And then tears began to flow. President Connor. The creditors of my father's side have come to demand repayment again. They said they would break my younger brother's legs if I didn't pay back the money soon. I really had no choice but to take on several part-time jobs. Elena was crying her heart out. And Connor became flustered. President Connor. Could you please talk to the doctor? I really can't waste any more time here. Elena was so sad that she grasped Connor's hand as if begging. Connor thought for a moment and asked. How much does your father owe? What? I asked how much your father owes. Connor impatiently repeated it again. 600,000. Connor snorted coldly. Is just 600 cows and making you work so hard? Elena was stunned for a moment. And then a hint of anger appeared on her face. President Connor. Perhaps 600 cows and is nothing to you. But for ordinary people like us, we may not be able to save that much money in half a lifetime. If I don't work hard, do I have to watch my family suffer? Elena. That's not what I meant. After being criticized by her like that, Connor softened and stuffed a card into her hand. There's 1 million in this card. It's enough for you to pay off the debt. Elena was stunned. When she came to her senses, she gave the card back to him. President Connor. Don't do this. I can't pay you back. You don't have to pay it back. Connor looked at her deeply. This money can be regarded as the salary I prepaid you for 8 years of work at Xingjing. In the next 8 years, there won't be any more payments on your salary card. Even though I was so far away. I understood. Connor was asking her to go back to work at Xingjing. But, is it okay, President Connor? Elena burst into tears again. Now she would be grateful to Connor for the rest of her life. I'm your boss. If I say it's okay, having fulfilled my indsashar, then it's okay. After that, I didn't continue watching. I walked to the vending machine at the entrance of the hospital and found that everything inside had been sold out. How unlucky. I was exhausted. And on top of that, I had to endure hunger in the middle of the night while watching my boyfriend flirting with someone else. Are you Miss Elena's friend? Just when I was wondering whether I should go outside to have a look, a deep male voice came from behind me. I turned around. What a tall man. I craned my neck to look at the tall and slender man in front of me. He must be about 1.9 meters tall, right? Well, I'm the driver who hit her. The man was wearing a mask. His voice was deep and muffled. But his exposed eyes were deep and beautiful. with a liveliness that didn't match his voice. I'm really sorry. I'll cover her medical expenses. But I'm in a hurry. Since you're her friend, could you please help me pass my contact information to her? As the man said that, he stuffed a business card into my hand. I also have a bread here. If you don't mind, please take it. He didn't give me a chance to refuse and left in a hurry. When I came to my senses, there was already a meat floss bread in my arms. Thank you, stranger. I picked up the business card. It had his name and phone number on it. Aquila. It's quite a nice name. Wait. Aquila? I quickly took out my phone and typed these 2 words into the search box of the browser. A database key entry popped up. Wasn't this exactly the writer Aquila, who was about to cooperate with the magazine? After eating half of the bread, my stomach felt at least less empty. I glanced at my watch. The hour hand had already passed 12 o'clock. I went back to the hospital ward. The takeout had already been delivered and Connor was opening the lid for her. I walked in wearing high heels. They noticed me after just 2 steps. Only then did Connor remember that I was there too. He stood up from the stool and was about to explain. But he froze on the spot when he saw the half of the bread in my hand. I ignored him and looked at Elena on the bed instead. Elena's face was as pale as a sheet. Perhaps she didn't expect that I was right beside her when she sent the message to Connor. Moreover, she had also sent me that ambiguous message. Miss Elena, are you feeling okay? I showed a token of concern for her. I'm okay now. Elena guiltily lowered her head. She was scared. She was afraid that I would tell Connor the content of that text message and that I would tell him that we had met. Thalia. I interrupted Connor. Give me the car keys. I'll ask the driver to drive it back to you tomorrow. I have to go to work tomorrow morning. I don't have the energy to waste time here with you. I'm off the day after tomorrow. If you're done with your work, come to me. Let's talk about the trip. And by the way, I glanced at Elena as I spoke. Let's also talk about other things. I reached out my hand to ask for the keys. However, Connor had a determined look in his eyes. He took my hand and walked out. Let's go home. President Connor. Perhaps not expecting that Connor would leave, Elena subconsciously wanted to stop him. Connor ignored her and left the ward with me without looking back. Although it was already early morning, the streets were still brightly lit. Connor and I were silent in the car. Looking at the street outside the window, I put the half piece of bread to my mouth. Don't eat the bread. Connor's eyes were red. We'll be at the restaurant soon. Most restaurants in City A stay open until 4 or 5 o'clock in the early morning of the next day, and then reopen around 11 o'clock at noon. Didn't I say I wanted to go home? I was a bit angry. Who wants to go to a restaurant in the middle of the night? Don't we have to wait to order? What time do you expect me to go to bed? Do I still have to go to work? But you haven't had a proper meal yet. Does it matter? Connor? I couldn't help raising my voice. Connor pulled over. Damn it. The progress of going home was delayed again. It matters. Forget it. Connor. I sighed. If you like Elena, you can just break up with me. Connor panicked. Thalia. I really have nothing to do with Elena. She's just my employee. Employee? I sneered. Former employee, right? I continued unceremoniously. Connor. Do you show such concern for all the employees in your company? Do you visit anyone who's hospitalized in the middle of the night so attentively? You say there's nothing going on. Are you kidding me? Connor also got angry. Thalia. Why don't you believe me? We've known each other for so many years. Are you going to fall out with me because of an assistant? There's a phrase called becoming angry out of embarrassment. I couldn't help but want to laugh. Then let me ask you in return. We've known each other for so many years. Why did you hurt my feelings so much because of an assistant? It had been a long time since his birthday. I had been hesitating to make up my mind because I still couldn't let go of this relationship. How could I let go of a 20-year relationship? I threw myself into work wholeheartedly. But now even work couldn't numb me anymore. Thalia. Don't cry. I'm wrong. Seeing the tears in my eyes, Connor finally realized that I wasn't being unreasonable. Thalia. I admit that I treated Elena a bit differently. But it's definitely not because I like her. I just saw your shadow in her and subconsciously wanted to help her. Connor, only have eyes for you. I stared blankly at one place and didn't respond. Connor thought I had accepted his explanation and leaned in front of me, trying to comfort me with a kiss. Are you sure you want to kiss me with the mouth that has eaten junk food? I looked up coldly, right into his confused eyes. What are you? I showed him the photo I took that night. Connor was stunned for a moment and then his whole body tensed up. I smiled bitterly. Admit it. Connor. You're head over heels in love. I unilaterally announced the breakup. Even though I loved him deeply, I couldn't accept that he had lied to me time and time again. Connor naturally didn't want to break up. He sent many sincere apology letters. But no matter what reasons he gave, he couldn't explain why he cried while eating Elena's cake and called her name that day. He was on his knees crying like that. If it wasn't love, what else could it be? For several consecutive days, I ignored him. Several times when I got off work and saw him parked outside, I also took my colleagues' cars to go home, probably realizing that pestering me was useless. He didn't come to find me again. I focused all my attention on work. One day at noon, I received a message from Stone. There was no need to guess that he was here to persuade me. I refused. But unexpectedly, he blocked me at the entrance of my workplace. Don't you even want to have a meal with an old friend? I couldn't help laughing helplessly. I could ignore Connor without hesitation. But I couldn't do the same to my friends. Old Zoo knows he's wrong. After I ate the last piece of steak on my plate, Stone finally couldn't help but speak. Now the true intention was revealed. Stone. Didn't you say we were just having a meal? I smiled meaningfully. Stone's face looked awkward. But since he had a task to accomplish, he had to bite the bullet and finish what he wanted to say. Really? Thalia. You know how much Old Zoo likes you. When you went abroad back then, he was so devastated. You said that after finally waiting for you to come back, you were transferred to go on a business trip abroad not long after. You have to admit that he's quite pitiful. I never asked him to wait for me. Although this might sound a bit heartless, it was the truth. I knew that he had liked me since we were young. But I had never said that I wanted him to wait for me to come back. Even when we confirmed our relationship after I returned to China, and when I went on that business trip, I respected his opinion. Did Connor and Elena get together during the 6 months when I was on a business trip? Stone was stunned for a moment and his eyes shifted elsewhere. Guiltily, he said. No. No, Old Zoo. Don't you know? Besides you, there's no one else who can catch his eye. I sneered in my heart. Stone. Did you already know about their relationship? Stone's smile froze on his face. On Connor's birthday, when I sent you away, you said some very strange things to me. I paused. Do you still remember? Stone didn't say anything for a long time. After a long while, he sighed. Don't blame him, Thalia. He just saw your shadow in Elena. Stone had witnessed how hard Connor had struggled along the way. As for Elena, Stone was sure that it was just an accidental distraction when he was tired. Of course, I knew better than anyone else how Connor felt about me. Everyone knew that Connor loved Thalia, including Thalia herself. Every cup of hot water in our school days. Every piano performance where he sat in the audience and cheered for me. Every word he said to comfort me when my hormones were out of balance during adolescence. So I could sense it even when there was the slightest change in his feelings. Forgive him, Thalia. Looking at my old friend trying so hard to persuade me to make up, I suddenly felt a pang of sadness in my heart. But strangely, it made me extremely calm instead. I smiled bitterly. Stone. Why are you starting to tell lies like him too? What? Stone looked at me blankly. I said bluntly. Elena is like me? How is that possible? Stone suddenly realized. Clumsy. Self-abased. Persistent. Extreme. Whether in the past or now, Thalia has never had these traits. On the contrary, it was. I looked at the clear champagne in the goblet, feeling mostly helpless and sad in my heart. Presumably, Stone was in the same mood as I was. Undeniably. Connor. He's fallen in love with his former self. Since I became sensible, I've known that the Connor family is different from mine. Both being businessmen, Connor's father is much stricter than my father. Connor grew up under his father's strict guidance. He had already been 10 times more hardworking than his peers. But Connor's father still thought it wasn't enough. Whether it was interest classes or compulsory finance courses, Connor had gradually been exposed to these since he was 5 years old. Therefore, for a long time, he was self-abased, sensitive, irritable, and extreme. Especially after hearing some rumors from somewhere that Connor's father had an illegitimate child outside. In the 3rd year of junior high school, I saw him cry so sadly for the first time. If he didn't move forward, he would be replaced. So Connor worked even harder. However, due to his natural talent, the teenage Connor couldn't satisfy his father at all. Even though he took over the enterprise when he grew up, being sophisticated and powerful in the business world. But I knew that he was still living in the shadow of his childhood. I just didn't expect that he projected his feelings for his childhood self onto Elena, who was similar to his past self. As a result, he was both impatient with her clumsiness and couldn't help feeling pity for her. It was absurd, yet reasonable. As for Elena, I don't know what she was thinking to be able to tell me that she was more suitable for Connor than I was. But I know one thing. Connor had complained about me to her. Probably during the 6 months when I was on a business trip, he might have complained about me or the problems in our relationship. This is what I can't accept the most. I don't expect a lover who has no complaints about me. But I hope that he can confide his dissatisfaction to me. I don't think I'm that unreasonable. To put it another way, his confidant could be Stone, any of his friends, or even strangers. But it definitely couldn't be Elena, who had feelings for him. Complaining about me on one side while pretending to be a good boyfriend who understood me on the other side. What's the difference from lying to me? Besides, it's not the first time he's lied to me. Seeing your shadow in Elena? Are you kidding me? Is it really impossible for the two of you? Stone said slowly, and I could hear a hint of sadness in his voice. If there has to be a witness to the relationship between Connor and me, it must be Stone. I nodded. Just think of it as him being confused for a moment. He ate Elena's cake. Stone was stunned. I sighed and said, after you left, he ate up all the cake on the ground. Connor did something that normal people couldn't do for Elena's sake. If Elena knew about it, she would probably be very happy. Stone didn't try to persuade me anymore. When the lunch break was almost over, Stone left. And I felt completely drained, as if all my strength had left me while sitting on the chair. The problems that I had been avoiding all along were analyzed and laid out in front of me one by one today. Apart from feeling a bit tired, I was calmer than I had expected. I saw Connor again 2 days later. When I went downstairs to throw out the garbage, I saw him at the entrance of the unit. There were bruises on his face, which were caused by Stone. Anyone can just walk in. It seems that the security in the community needs to be strengthened. I was about to leave when Connor grabbed me. Thalia, can we talk? I hadn't seen him for a few days. And he had lost a lot of weight. His jawline was much more defined than before. Didn't we already finish talking? I believed that Stone had clearly conveyed my attitude to him. Connor hung his head where he stood, looking a bit lonely in the autumn wind. But he just wouldn't let go of my hand. I didn't touch her, he said. Connor stared into my eyes. I've never touched Elena. So what? I asked him in return. I don't care. Connor. Connor's eyes turned red. And he grabbed my shoulders in exasperation. You do care. How could you not care about me? Thalia. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have lied to you and I shouldn't have blamed you for the root cause. Forgive me. Thalia. I can't live without you. Connor almost knelt down and burst into tears. This attracted the attention of the residents in the community. I helped him up and said calmly, no one in this world can't live without someone else. No. He stared at me stubbornly. You can't leave me. Didn't we also agree to go to Iceland to see the aurora together? Thalia, hugging fulfilled my obsession. I love you. I love you more than anyone else in the world. But. Connor opened his mouth but he froze on the spot when he saw my expressionless face. I didn't even know what was supposed to follow the but. Then Connor left just like that. A few days later, I received the news that he had attempted suicide. I saw Connor again in the hospital ward. He had been out of danger and was moved out of the ICU. If Stone hadn't noticed something was wrong, he would have died from the carbon monoxide in that room. Thalia. You're here. On the third day after he woke up, I came to the hospital to visit him. Connor was half leaning on the hospital bed. His complexion sallow, looking extremely weak and emaciated. When he saw me, there was a bit of life in his lifeless eyes. I didn't say anything. I walked to the bedside on my own and sat down, then picked up an apple and started peeling it. Connor stared at me fixedly. And I didn't know if he was trying to guess my mood or just wanted to look at me. Here you are. I peeled the apple skin off intact and handed the flesh to him. Connor was stunned for a moment and didn't take it. Or do you want to eat the apple skin? My words made him chuckle. And the atmosphere wasn't as depressing as before. I watched him quietly as he ate it. When he threw the core into the trash can, I stood up, ready to leave. Thalia. Connor called me in confusion. Don't you have anything to say to me? I didn't understand the point of his question. Or did he want me to ask him why he had attempted suicide? Connor. We're not children anymore. Adults have to be responsible for their own actions. Hearing this, Connor fell silent. I went back to the magazine office and felt extremely tired when I sat in the office chair. It had been half a month since Connor's accident. When I heard the news of his accident, besides being scared, I also felt a bit absurd. Connor was just like a child who would throw an tantrum with his parents when he couldn't get candy. I just didn't expect that he would be so extreme as to threaten with his life. He really hadn't changed at all over the years. Editor Thalia. Mr. Aquila is here. My assistant knocked on my door. I quickly went out to greet him. From a distance, I saw that tall figure. Besides the author himself, his agent also came. You must be editor-in-chief Thalia. Oh, you're so young. I've read your plan. And it really suits our boss's taste. What? It was done by everyone together? Oh, it's amazing. Your magazine office is really full of talented people. The agent's overwhelming praise made my head spin. Whether it's entertainment stars or popular authors. Why are their agents all like this? Mr. Aquila. I'm Thalia, the editor in charge of your upcoming photo shoot project. Aquila was very young, good-looking, and his weak-colored skin made him look a bit wild. The young girls in the office were already whispering and cheering softly. Aquila shook my hand. When he saw my face clearly, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. It's you. There's no time to waste. Let's go and try on the clothes quickly. Please follow me. I quickly interrupted what he was about to say next. Aquila was a smart person and didn't say anything more. Mr. Aquila. It's better not to mention that we've met before. There are so many people in the office with loose tongues. It wouldn't be good if any rumors spread. Taking advantage of the time when the agent went to the bathroom, I handed him a glass of water and explained apologetically. Aquila was stunned for a moment. And then a slight smile appeared on his usually expressionless face. What are you talking about? Editor-in-chief Thalia? Didn't we just meet today? I really like talking to smart people. I originally thought that it would take some effort to take photos of an amateur, but unexpectedly, Aquila's performance in front of the camera was surprisingly good. Our Mr. Aquila is great. Isn't he? Seeing that I looked appreciative, the agent grabbed me and chattered on and on. Our Aquila is really a genius. His first work was written when he was 18. Although he didn't have any fame back then, his writing style was already quite mature. And you've seen it, right? He's even more handsome than those young heartthrobs in the entertainment industry. If his photo is on the cover of the magazine, your magazine will surely sell out. I felt like there were mosquitoes buzzing in my ears. Please make sure to tell our editors about these things during the exclusive interview next week. It will be very good material for his profile. I smiled politely, just hoping that he would stop talking. Who knew that he would become even more complacent? Of course I will. And let me tell you, our Aquila is also very kind-hearted. He saved a little wild cat before and spent a lot of money on treating it in the hospital. This must also be written in. That it was a bit unlucky on the night when he took the kitten home. A woman suddenly rushed onto the road. Fortunately, having felt late, the car braked quickly at that time. Or else there would have been a human life involved. I became alert. Did you handle that matter properly? I looked at him seriously. If something goes wrong in the future, it won't just be you who will be affected. By then don't even mention selling out. We might even lose our shirts. Seeing that I suddenly put on a straight face, the agent panicked at once, realizing that he had said too much. He said with an apologetic smile, "Don't worry. Don't worry. We took full responsibility. There was no drunk driving. We paid for the medical expenses, compensation fees, and mental damage fees." He didn't say another word in the next few hours. "So it was Elena who faked the accident and tried to extort you during the break of the photo shoot?" I asked him in a low voice. It wasn't that I was maliciously speculating. She could still think of sending me a provocative message, even after the car accident, so it was hard for me not to think that way. Aquila was stunned for a moment and then he reacted after a while. "That incident? I didn't see clearly at that time either. You're really a nice person. What's wrong?" Seeing that I mentioned this matter, he turned to ask me again. He was tall and big. Even when sitting on the sofa, he was almost as tall as me. Those clear eyes looked at me, and suddenly I felt a bit guilty. He was like a brown curly-haired puppy. "Nothing. Did you turn on the dash cam at that time?" Aquila nodded. "That's good. By the way, I think you can consider changing your agent when you go back. He really has a big mouth." Aquila didn't understand why I said that, but he nodded blankly. Actually, I didn't think that Elena would threaten him with this kind of thing in the future. After all, the two of them had no enmity. But wasn't she afraid that something really bad would happen when she deliberately crashed the car? In the following days, I continued to visit Connor. It was lunch break at that time. I went to the hospital and brought him some food by the way. Unexpectedly, Elena was also there. "Connor. You. Get out. Who gave you the right to call me that? Get out. I brought you the chicken soup that I made myself. Didn't you hear me telling you to get out? Who wants to drink your lousy soup?" Just at that moment, I, who had been trying to eavesdrop on the gossip at the door, was bumped by a passing nurse. A nurse's apology caught the attention of the people in the room. I had no choice but to walk in awkwardly. "Thalia." Connor was visibly happy. Elena's face looked even worse. "Thalia. Thank you for the food you made yourself." "You're welcome. Because it's takeout." Connor. But he was still very happy. After opening the lunch box, he ate while saying that I had chosen good dishes. Elena just stood there blankly, looking as aggrieved and embarrassed as she did on the night of Connor's birthday. But Connor seemed to ignore her and kept chatting with me, even if it was just making small talk. "What are you still standing here for?" "What?" I thought he was talking to me. Following his gaze, I realized that he was talking to Elena. "President Connor. I'm just concerned." "I don't need your concern." Connor looked fierce, and the hatred in his eyes seemed to burn people. "If it weren't for you, my life wouldn't be like this now." "President Connor. I like you." The sudden confession left both Connor and me dumbfounded. "Whether you treat me well or not, whether you have feelings for me or not, I just like you," Elena said as her eyes turned red. "Miss Thalia, is it wrong for me to like someone?" Suddenly being called out like this, I was like, God, is this a love triangle? What does it have to do with Thalia? Seeing that she mentioned me, Connor became even angrier. "I don't care if you like me or not. I told you to get out." Elena was sobbing softly, heading to flee. But no matter what, Connor didn't pay any attention to her anymore. Elena left reluctantly. Connor's mood wasn't affected at all. He ate the takeout with a happy face. I looked at the willow tree peeking out of the window, and my thoughts were drawn back to a long time ago. "Connor." I called him. "Do you remember when you were injured and hospitalized in the first year of high school?" Seeing that I brought up the past, a look of surprise appeared on Connor's face. "Of course I remember. Back then, he joined the school basketball team and practiced hard every day. Besides studying, he was playing basketball. Finally, having fulfilled Wayabsai, he became an official player in the set and half of the year. That summer vacation, they had a game with another school in the province. I remember that Connor was excited for a long time. He said to me, 'Thalia, This is the first game for me. You must come to watch. Just as he had never missed any of my piano competitions. I didn't want to miss his game either. But things didn't go as planned. I was delayed because I was hospitalized due to my period that day. I originally thought that I could go there right after things were over and maybe I could catch the second half of the game. But in the end, I saw Connor in the corridor of the orthopedic department of the hospital. He limped into the consulting room with Stone's support. I caught up to check on him and was shocked to see his bruised face. "What are you doing here?" We almost said it at the same time. Looking into his eyes, I felt extremely ashamed for failing to keep my promise. "Are you sick? Why are you in the hospital?" Meeting Connor's anxious eyes, I suddenly felt a pang of sadness in my nose. What a fool. He was still worried about me even though he was in such a state himself. "It's my aunt. But what about you? Didn't you go to play basketball? How did you end up like this?" I followed Stone and helped him into the consulting room together. "Well," Stone was just about to speak when Connor interrupted him. "I accidentally fell while playing basketball." He smiled brightly. But it only made me feel sadder. "I'm sorry, Connor. I couldn't make it." It doesn't matter. Even without you, I could still slam dunk in no time." Connor didn't care at all. And the light in his eyes seemed to be still reminiscing about that game. "But it's good that you're okay." He patted his head to comfort me. "When I saw you just now, I thought something had happened to you." Probably it was at that time that I realized how much I cared about Connor. I was afraid that he would dislike me because I broke our appointment. And I was also touched by his warmth. Especially when I heard the truth from Stone later. Connor had fought with the opposing forward because of me. The reason was that after the game ended and the team gathered, he heard No. 10 say that he wanted to court Thalia, the piano-playing girl in their school. Almost instantly, he reacted. By the time Stone came to his senses, Connor was already wrestling with No. 10. Old Connor is such a man. You don't know. As soon as he heard your name, he rushed over in a flash. Stone had praised Connor a lot at that time. He tearfully recounted Connor's heroic deeds to me, and then his face fell as he cried. Unfortunately, because of this fight, old Connor can't participate in the school league games anymore. I still remember the sadness and shock I felt back then. At that time, Connor was also lying in the hospital bed, happily eating the meal I brought. Just like today. You were so seriously injured to protect me back then. I actually missed that time a little. Connor was stunned for a moment and suddenly became embarrassed. You already know? I nodded. That kid Stone. Connor looked quite annoyed. I looked at him, feeling a mix of emotions. Back then, you got hurt to protect me. But now, you're using your injury to threaten me. I didn't say anything else and left after watching him finish eating as usual. At the entrance of the hospital, I met Aquila, who had just come out of the pet hospital. He was carrying a cat bag and looked at me in surprise. Is this the little stray cat you rescued? I leaned over to take a look at the little guy. It was a calico cat. Only 2 months old. Its right front paw was bandaged. But it looked healthy and lively. Yes. How did you know? Halfway through his sentence, he seemed to remember what I had told him that day and sighed helplessly. I'll replace it when I get back. I smiled and then remembered something. I took out an apple from my handbag. What's this? Aquila was confused. A thank you gift for the bread you gave me that day. Aquila had a dumbfounded expression. He probably wanted to decline, but he obediently took it anyway. That's why I liked people who were perceptive. By the way, is Miss Elena unwell again? When I was about to say goodbye to him, Aquila asked me. Before I went into the pet hospital, I saw her walking into the hospital. Was her previous injury not healed? If so, please help me convey that I'll pay for the medical expenses, including those for any aftereffects. Young man, I'm really impressed by your kindness. Don't worry. She's okay. After chatting with him for a few more things about work, I went back to the office. However, I never expected that Elena didn't leave even after I left the ward. She saw me chatting with Aquila and took pictures. And then she posted them online. The caption read, 3 months after the car accident. The mastermind behind the scenes turned out to be the ex-girlfriend of her boyfriend. When the editor-in-chief sent me this news on WeChat, there was also a 60-second voice message attached. I could imagine how angry she was on the other end. The news was released by a rival newspaper. There were 2 videos attached in total. One was the one of me chatting with Aquila, and the other was the one of her being hit by a car captured by the surveillance camera. However, damn it, the 2 videos showed the faces very clearly. Some people believed Elena's words wholeheartedly, and even dug out our real names. They cursed us for colluding with each other and accused me of still pestering even after breaking up. Looking at the overwhelming malice on the internet, I was surprisingly calm. The speculation at that time had actually come true. I just didn't expect that I would be involved too. Aquila's agent contacted me immediately and said that they would handle the public relations right away and release the evidence from the dash cam. Actually, that couldn't really be considered evidence. It was just a matter of the angle. In Elena's video, it could only be seen that the car hit her. But it wasn't obvious whether she had deliberately run into it. However, the dash cam clearly showed that she had run into the car first. Once the video was released, there was another uproar. The public's criticism turned to her. They said that she didn't look at the traffic when crossing the road and seemed to be trying to extort money by faking an accident. At this time, somehow a kind-hearted person released another video. The content was that in a dim karaoke room, Elena stood sadly at the door with a cake in her hands. The caption read, "Who's the mistress?" Only then did I remember that there was a person specifically responsible for recording at Connor's birthday party that day. So Elena was attacked again. Soon after, to save face, she released many screenshots of chat records. The content was rather ambiguous. It didn't seem like a relationship between lovers but was a bit too intimate to be just acquaintances. After 2 days of fermentation, Elena's methods were really childish. I didn't even need to take action. However, when she released the chat screenshots, I finally became interested. I clicked on them one by one to look. The chat time happened to be during the period when I was on a business trip. Ordered your favorite taro chicken. Are you stupid? You didn't bring an umbrella on a rainy day. I'll pick you up. I ate the cookies. The craftsmanship is good. I'll beat him up again if he touches you next time. You're so stupid. What would you do without me? Well, it did give me a bit of a shock. So the public opinion took another turn. Netizen A, even if the girl ran into the car on purpose. What a coincidence that the ex-girlfriend and the perpetrator knew each other. Netizen B, agree. Look at how sweet the couple is. And they say, who's the mistress? Isn't this the scene of the real girlfriend catching the cheating? Didn't you see how pitiful she was standing there? Netizen C, not sure. Let's wait and see. I just found this farce funny. And then someone dug up that I came from a wealthy family. And my past experiences were also dug up completely. So some people said, does the young lady need to compete with you? A secretary? She's so excellent. Why would she compete with you for a man? Family insider information. The perpetrator Aquila is the writer Aquila. I met because of the cooperation with the magazine. And at this moment, Stone dealt the final blow. He released our photos from our school days, as well as the video of Connor's confession, and wrote a lot about our experiences over the years in the caption. He repeatedly emphasized that there was no other woman after Connor and I broke up, and there was no third party involved. I knew that he was protecting Connor, but he also helped me. Stone was really in a difficult position caught between the two of us. But anyone with a discerning eye could tell whether there was a third party or not. At this point, the public opinion completely turned against Elena. And also the man who was trying to stay out of it. The next time I saw Aquila was when he was being interviewed by the copywriting team of the magazine. Since the misunderstanding had been cleared up, our cooperation continued. It's just a pity that his first public appearance couldn't be for our magazine. After it ended, we both went to the coffee shop without prior arrangement. After a long silence, we looked at each other and smiled. I never expected that I would be on the top of the hot search in my lifetime. I smiled helplessly. For people like us who work behind the scenes, although we usually complain that we don't have the glamour of being in the spotlight, it's really a bit overwhelming when we're actually exposed to the public. Aquila also nodded and then said, I thought you were her friend at that time. I didn't expect that she was actually. Forget it. Let's not mention that kind of thing. I raised my coffee cup. Let's drink a toast to the anticipation that our magazine's sales will reach 10,000 copies. Since the online incident ended, Connor hadn't pestered me anymore. If he still had a glimmer of hope before that I would change my mind, then after the chat records were exposed, he no longer had any such hope. There's a saying that no woman can come out of her boyfriend's phone with a smile. Although he's an ex-boyfriend now, the impact of this incident on me was just like that saying. I knew it. And Connor knew it too. When all his actions were exposed, we could never go back to the past. Even though I still loved him and he loved me too. Even if I said I didn't mind, Connor would still evaluate this relationship. How likely would these past events be brought up in every future quarrel? Thalia couldn't guarantee to forget completely. And Connor couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't get tired of it because of this. As for Elena, after the incident ended, she came to find me again. The place was a restaurant with private rooms. She was wrapped up tightly. And I almost didn't recognize her. Thalia, he clearly chose you. What else are you dissatisfied with? Probably Connor had a lot of resentment towards her after that incident and had lost his temper with her many times. So she came to take it out on me? Elena, I'm not you. Being chosen isn't a good thing for me. When Connor chose between me and her, it was doomed that I wouldn't continue this relationship. But as for you, how dare you use such clumsy means? Should I say you're stupid or clumsy? Thinking of the 4-day-long online battle, I couldn't help but want to laugh. Elena sneered and looked out of the window. I just wanted him to notice me. What's wrong with that? Obviously, hadn't fulfilled my adsight. He was only nice to me before you came back. Once some people fall into paranoia, they can't be persuaded no matter what. Elena and Connor are really similar. So similar that for a moment I thought the person sitting in front of me was the teenage Connor. Epilogue: Connor decided to go abroad for further studies. Before leaving, he still wanted to see me one more time. I didn't hate him to the core. After all, for so many years, I had also felt guilty towards him. In this romantic relationship with him, I really didn't invest as much emotion as he did. Thalia, I'm giving this back to you. He took out an exquisite box and put it in my hand. I opened it and saw that it was the bracelet I made in the practical class in junior high school. At that time, you said you would give this to your future lover. I insisted on keeping it for you. At that time, I thought this bracelet would belong to me in the future. Connor gave me a deep look and smiled bitterly. Even you. Now that things have come to this, I'm sorry to you. I had it for a short time. And it's time to give it back to you. Thalia, you'll meet someone who truly cherishes you. I smiled faintly. Same to you. Wish you all the best. If someone asks me what's going on between you and the first person you liked, I'll answer, those were just ordinary days back then. The end.